Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good night. It is Friday night here in Edmonton. It is bloody cold. I won't even tell you, I'm like minus 19 Celsius. It is bloody cold. I am joined again by Mr. Bill Schuster. How you doing, Bill?
Mondo, I am doing wonderfully.
That's just wonderful. That's great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our series of top five albums from 1970 to 1979. We have approached year 1978. Disco is at its zenith still. It's going to crash soon. Peaches and Herb are at the top of the charts with I think it's Shaky Groove Thing. Um,
Yeah,
along with
yeah.
the Bee Gees with How Deep Is Your Love? Thank you to
Oh,
Saturday Night Fever. We are going to give you our top five albums of 1978 plus two honorable mentions, as is the customary with this series. So I once again will pass over the virtual mic over to Mr. Bill Schuster for your number five.
all right. Thank you, sir. I am going for what I tend to call my favorite band here. Many people think this is their best or one of their best. Um, I love this album, but it's probably only my third or fourth favorite of their albums in the 70s. Not even getting into later albums, but it is a masterpiece. I have no complaints about it, and it absolutely deserves to be here. It is Hemispheres by Rush.
Okay.
Um, I'm sure plenty of hardcore Rush fans would think I was nuts for not placing this at the top of everything. But hey, it's a Rush album. It's great. I love it. It has one of their three sidelong epics on it, but it's my least favorite of the three.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the unusual, probably, opinion that they got less interesting with each big sidelong epic. They got more refined and probably better at it, but I think it became a little too sterile for me compared to the wild experimentation of the earlier stuff.
I got you.
Um, but yeah, La Via Strangiato is probably right up there with YYZ as their most famous instrumental,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's quite a fun journey, especially live, of course, to see all the weird stuff that Alex would say and do. Yeah, there are really no weak spots on this album. There's only four tracks, but then it's a prog rock classic, of course, with the that famous prog rock convention of showing a guy's bare ass on the cover. Yes, also did with Going for the One, and I'm sure there are
Mm-hmm.
plenty of other examples too.
Yeah.
It's still a pretty cool cover concept, though. The two sides of the brain there, the hemispheres.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fits it
The
quite
left side
nicely.
and the right side, like yeah. I got you. It's a good album. Um, the Villa Stringiato, just quickly, the story is that they tried to record the track in one take. They couldn't do it. They had to record it in sections, like in pieces. It was that intricate and that long that they could not do it. And there is a 10-minute version of it that they do live on stage for a video for the actual track. If you can find it on YouTube, guys, and they'll find it, you'll like it. Um, that's a good choice. My number five choice, coming in at number five, I should say again. It's been a long day, guys. Um, I'm continuing with the Canadian contingent is FM with Black Noise. Um, you know, FM trio consisting of Nash the Slash on violins and other instruments as well. Also featuring Cameron Hawkins on keyboards and guitars and vocals, bass and vocals and keyboards, I should say. Sorry. Um, I only found out about this album I'd say about 10 years ago, uh, 10 or 12 years ago. Fantastic album, very I was gonna say very instrumental. Yes, instrumental tracks, but very experimental. The lead off track and single on here is Phases on Stun, which is fantastic. Very atmospheric, a lot of keyboards, a lot of percussion overdubs done on this track. Other songs of note are 1 o'clock tomorrow, Hours, Journey, Dialing for Dharma, and the uh, space influenced title track. This was released originally on CBC Records in Toronto. This is how local this release was. And it's been reissued and released on various labels throughout the years. You can get it on Amazon. It's a fantastic album. If you want something a little out of the ordinary, um, check this album out. That's my number five.
All right. I guess I'm going to have to finally get around to checking it out. I've been aware of FM for the longest time, but they've been on the back burner as eventually I'm going to check this band out. So, all right, there's one for me to look into. Is that the album you would recommend to start with?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good deal.
This is the album with the classic lineup. Nash Slash would end up leaving after this release. He'd come back a few years later. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago from a heart attack while at home watching TV. But yeah, I would get this album. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
All right, cool. All right, my next one I do not have a physical copy of. Um, this is a concept album. It's a double album. It's a very theatrical, has guest stars. It has Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues.
I know where you're
That's
going.
Bill Wyatt from Thin Lizzy. Yeah, you know where exactly where I'm going. We're going to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. This thing is so cool and so weird, and it is very much a 1978 album because there is so much of a mixture here of disco and progressive rock. It is bizarre and unique. This is just a one of a kind album. It's I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. It has Richard Burton narrating it of all
That's
people, who does a
exactly it.
good
Yeah.
job. That's and yeah, the story, you get caught up in the story, but then the musical vibe is continuous throughout. It's there are no big jarring sonic changes through the album. The sound palette, I think, is pretty consistent throughout it, and I think that's a good thing. It works in favor
Yeah.
of the whole story concept. But yeah, it's a really cool, creepy version and fun version of the War of the Worlds, the story everybody knows some version of.
Yeah.
He also redid this version later in a studio version. He redid it, released it in a live version. There's been a video. Yeah, Jeff Wayne's. I think he's been living off this album for many years, essentially, in one form or another. And more power to him for that because it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
No, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. I knew you were going with that when you said, double album, concept album featuring Justin Hayward. I knew exactly where you were going with that. And yeah. Okay. My number four, ladies and gentlemen, is Jethro Tull with Heavy Horses. Um, Second of the what was considered the trilogy. Started off with Songs from the Wood. This is if Songs from the Wood is a fall album, this is considered very much, in my opinion, a spring album in terms of the just the timing of it and just the type of songs on it. Songs like um, "And the Mouse Police Never Sleeps," "Ace is Wild," "No Lullaby," "Moths," uh, "Journeyman," "Rover," "One Brown Mouse," the title track, and forgive this title, Weathercock. All right. Um, Again, continuing with the minstrel type of instrumentation, fantastic guitar work from Martin Barr, flutes all over the album. Acoustic guitars, just amazing. The cover itself gives the feeling of a spring type of album. And uh, Ian Anderson had said that he was petrified for doing the cover shot for the album cover because those horses were huge, and he was afraid that they were going to start freaking out and trampling him and just becoming difficult to handle. Um, Fantastic album. Just it's just Hotel. I mean, what else can be said, right? I mean, you know what you're going to get with just Hotel, but you still love it. So that's my number four.
Yep. Again, I'm glad you're giving a fair share of attention to Jethro Tull because outside of Aqualung, I've pretty well neglected them. They've everything that they put out virtually throughout the 70s has just been hovering outside of my lists.
Mhm.
I don't think they put out a bad album in the 70s, but it's
Mhm.
the 70s, so
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
call. Um, my number three is second album by this band. It's my favorite album by this band. Um, it is Double Vision by Foreigner.
Ah.
Um, to me, the only thing that could make this album better is to throw Hot Blooded in the trash and put Star Rider from the first album in its place.
Okay.
That might be controversial to some people, but Hot Blooded is just basic, boring cock rock. It weakens this album. That's probably the only reason it's not higher. It's the big hit off of here, but the other big hit, Double Vision, I think is a mini masterpiece. It's a
Yeah.
whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I like Foreigner more when they get more creative rather than when it's just Lou Graham saying, "Hey, look how sweaty and horny I am."
Mm-hmm.
I'm nah.
Should I leave you my key? I mean, like, in
Yeah,
terms of, do
yeah,
you know
and
what I have in
musically, I
mind?
find it, you
Yeah.
know, it's just kind of a boring song musically to me. It's just dun dun. Mick Jones can do much better, I think.
Well, it's
Like
basically
Quiet
power
was a,
chords. It's basically power
yeah,
chords.
he's a much more creative songwriter than that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Tramontane, I love. That's a cool instrumental. An instrumental on a Foreigner album is a rarity, obviously, and this
Mm.
one's pretty nifty. Um, and of course, that features Ian McDonald, the late great Ian McDonald of King Crimson fame. He was still in the band at this point. A lot of times you couldn't even tell he was in the band,
Mm.
but that's one of those moments. Oh yeah, I can. Ian is in here. That's cool. Um,
Cool.
and I really like the ballads on this album a lot.
Hmm. Hmm.
You're All I Am absolutely should have been pushed. That should have been their first hit ballad. My God, that thing should have been huge, but yeah. Back Where You Belong, same thing. I like that a lot, and I've waited so long. I like there are times I don't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure Mick himself does some lead vocals on here,
Hmm.
and I really like that when it wasn't just all Lou. Lou's a great vocalist, but again, I like the variety. I love those bands that have multiple
Hmm.
lead voices. So yeah, Foreigner, Double Vision is my number three.
Perfect. No, it's a good choice. Yeah. Hot Blooded, still play on FM rock radio. No, Lou, you should not leave me your key. Sorry, ain't gonna happen.
That's
Um,
right. Go away, Lou. I got a fever of 103. I'm sick. I'm
there you
contagious.
go. There you go. I got cooties. Don't touch me. There we go. My number three is Styx with Pieces of Eight. The follow-up to the massively successful Grand Illusion. Fantastic album. Songs like Great White Hope, which starts off the album, which has the intro, spoken word intro by Dennis DeYoung. Renegade, the instrumental 1 minute 8 second, the message that on keyboards, fantastic synth playing from DeYoung on this. Blue Collar Man, I'm Okay, which is another fantastic song. So yeah, Is it as good as Grand Illusion? I'd say it's equal because but Grand Illusion also suffers from overplay, from being, like saturated in terms of the amount of that it's played. So yeah, good album. So that's my number three.
Yeah, that is a good one. I agree. It's pretty much on par with Grand Illusion. One I don't think you mentioned was "Sing for the Day," which is a
Yeah,
nice
that's right.
timely performance that I like
Oh,
quite a
sorry.
bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Um, yeah,
Which
that's
was
that's
the
a nice.
sorry, I think which was the actual single from the album.
Now here the ones we got played to death on the radio here that are probably still getting played are "Renegade" and "Blue Collar Man,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
definitely, definitely. Yeah, but it's still a good album.
oh yeah, they were on a pretty strong streak overall there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't have a prop for this one because I can't find it for some reason, but this is my second favorite album from this band. I've already mentioned them previously. You've mentioned them multiple times. It's Queen with Jazz. Yeah, Jazz is. I love this album. I did. There are so many wonderful moments. Mustafa kicks my ass right out the gate. I love everything about that song. It's just so unique. I love the way Freddie does his voice and that. I love just the way musically the song just tears it up. And the way it stops and starts, it's amazing.
Mhm,
Mustafa. Yeah.
mhm.
And Don't Stop Me Now. I remember that song being played on the radio when I was a kid, and I always liked it, but it was the Live Killers version that really got my attention with it. And yeah,
Yeah,
I love that song. There was a video game SingStar that we used to, you do karaoke using the mics, and that was in the opening to one of the games, and it showed all these people goofing
mhm.
around singing along with "Don't Stop Me Now," and so now I'll forever associate it with that. But that's a tour de force from
That's
Freddie,
cool.
especially.
That's
Have you
cool.
ever tried to sing that song? Holy crap!
Don't Stop Me
You
Now.
don't
I
stop to
don't.
take a breath. That's what you might as well say,
I
because
no.
there's
He. Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's
No.
impressive.
Vocally, like the even the studio version is just you have to breathe from the diaphragm in order to get those notes and to keep the moment to keep the notes at that same level. You can't dip in terms of the vocal delivery. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no,
I
it's
will
good.
say, for the sake of both my parents, I have to mention "Fat Bottom Girls." I'm a little tired of it, but it's still a great song,
Yeah.
and I know they're both fans of it. Hell, my dad still has it as his ringtone, I believe.
Hmm. Yeah.
And "Bicycle Race," mini masterpiece. That Yeah, I'd put that up there with every bit the bizarre little operatic masterpiece that Bohemian Rhapsody is for sure. It's all over the place, and the lyrics are absolutely landlocked in the late '70s with the references to Jaws and Star Wars and everything. That's
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it works.
Hmm.
It's great. I love every song on this album to different degrees. I like the way more that jazz has bits and pieces of various other songs on the album to tie it up to. Yeah. So yeah, Queen Jazz, which is not jazzy at all, but it doesn't matter because it's an awesome album. That's my number two.
Perfect. That's a good choice. Yeah. Um, we're not gonna go there. Uh, my number two is another Canadian band, the debut release from Saga, um, band from Toronto. Um, one of the most underrated bands ever in Canada, the US. They're big in Germany and in Europe, but they need more love in their home territory and they need more love in the US. Uh, They started out as under the name Pockets. Okay. Um, you have in the band at this point, you have Michael Sadler on vocals and keyboards and various bass, various instruments. Steve Negus on drums and percussion, Moog drums, whatever a Moog drum is. Ian Crichton on guitars, fantastic guitar player. Peter Rochon, the original keyboardist, synthesizer player. And Jim Crichton on bass and Moog bass, etc. 8 tracks on this album. Starts off with How Long? Just a fantastic lead off track. Humble Stance. Other songs of note are Ice Nice, The Perfectionist, which starts off side two, which basically is a rock waltz. Talks about this gentleman by the name of Everett Sneed, who had one great need to do everything just right. Um, which was he wanted to plan his own death, right down to the minute details. He wanted it to be done perfectly. Um, and other tracks of note on the album, Climbing the Ladder, Giving the Money, Will It Be You, which is part of the chapters uh, series that they did, which told the story of a young Albert Einstein. Depending on who you talk to about it, the chapter started out as an 8 part story, 8 chapters. And what they would do is every album for the first few albums, I think first 4 albums, had chapters, different chapters, but they weren't done chronologically. So for the debut album, you had chapters 4 and 6 of the story of this young Albert Einstein. Um, Musically, they are the most underrated band. It was recorded in Toronto, produced by Paul A. Gross at Phase One Studios in Toronto. Full, rich sound, full, fantastic drumming, fantastic, almost like percussive guitar playing from Ian Crichton, synthesizer work and keyboard work from uh, all three, Jim Crichton, Peter Rochon, who would leave the band after the debut album, and Michael Sadler. Just amazing. And just very quickly, I wanted to show this CD that I got from Mr. Steve Negus, personally signed. Thank you, Steve. Uh, from his project called Negus. This is his most recent album called Economy of Motion. Fantastic album. I'm going to be doing a review of it soon. But if you guys want to get an album from a band of progressive rock, but has more of a keyboard flavor to it, check out Saga. You really need to. If you haven't checked them out yet, you're missing out on quite a bit. So that's my number two.
All right, good call. Good to hear from Saga. Yeah, I agree. They do deserve much more attention than they get in our parts.
Yeah.
And obviously the Germans love them, but
Unreal. Unreal.
he had a brief fling with minor fame here, 83 ish.
81,
And
81, 83. Yeah, between Worlds Apart and Heads or Tails, the 2 albums. But yeah, after that they just fell off the map in the US. And it's the US's loss. I'm sorry. It's but I'm not one to gossip, so
no.
so
All right, well, we'll continue this saga. Nice segue there, huh?
yes,
To
we
go
will.
on to my number one. All right, this is the first time I featured him. Armando has mentioned him already. This is far and away my favorite album by him. It was a perfect follow up to what is probably still his best selling album, if I recall right, that came out in '77, which shockingly neither of us picked. Uh, Billy Joel, 52nd Street.
That was on my
And of course, the
list.
'77 album I'm talking about is The Stranger. I can't believe neither of us, but yeah, but I think this one's even better. I love every song, every moment on this. The most popular hit songs are probably Big Shot, Honesty in My Life. Zanzibar is definitely a Billy Joel fan favorite.
Hmm.
And that's just side one. I know Stiletto got played to death on the radio over the years. I don't know if it does anymore, but that's a great, the keyboard or the piano on that. Yeah, he plays so well on this, and this is his band at a peak, I think. And even the much lesser known songs, Rosalinda's Eyes, Half a Mile Away, are lovely, perfect pop songs. Great. This whole album is a sing along album for me. That's
Hmm.
one of the things I love about it. But possibly the best song on the album is the second to last track, Until the Night. Until the Night is just a powerful, just slow building, emotional, almost operatic track. Uh, yeah, he really puts a lot of emotion into this thing about basically the story is he's giving himself away, selling his labor during the day, and he's waiting until the night when he gets to come home to his loved one, and he's looking forward to it. And it's this very Springsteenish, Phil Spector-ish kind of big over the top production, and but it's not Phil Spector on this album. It's Phil Ramone, but we got
There
a
you
Phil in
go.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this come on, Billy's not a trumpet player. Let's keep it real, but it was a nice prop.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
piano man, not the trumpet man. Come on, but
There
still,
you
yeah.
go. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I got
But
you.
yeah, that's a great job. Anyway, yeah, yeah, it's an amazing album, and yeah, far and away my favorite from him.
Cool.
That's my number one.
Cool. Cool. Good choice. My number one is Queen with Jazz.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I have said in the past that this album for me does suffer from the drum sound on the album, that some of the tracks, most of the tracks, with the exception of Mustafa, Fat Bottom Girls, um, and well, Bicycle Race, and more of that jazz, have a heavier drum sound. So the rest of the drums, the rest of the drum sounds on the tracks, like Let Me Entertain You and all that, uh, they do sound a bit softer to me. And I don't know why. At the time, Roy Thomas Baker was working with the Cars as a producer. So he was trying to use some of those production techniques with Queen, and Roger Taylor and Brian May would say that on some of the tracks it didn't work, but it is a fantastic album. I mean, Mustafa, the intro with the, a cappella intro, where Freddie just comes hot, like white hot on the track, and it just he's singing the verses in Arabic, right? And imagine just amazing at a frenetic pace. Then it goes into Fat Bound Girls, Jealousy, which was a single, which was okay as a ballad. It's all right. It's good. Fat Bound Girls, If You Can Beat 'Em, which out of the 13 tracks is probably one of the weaker songs, but it's still a good song. Let Me Entertain You with lyrics like I'll pull you, Aquila de Villieu. I mean, who in the hell uses Walt Disney as a bloody reference point, you know, in lyrics for a track, you know, like amazing, Dead on Time that starts upside too with Brian May walking outside and recording a thunderstorm to get the thunder, the sound of the thunder, clap effect at the end of the track in only 7 days. The second John Deacon, beautiful ballad, right? Fun it, with that, the disco tinged drums with Freddie and Roger doing the the um the lead off vocals but separate, and then they come together in the mix. And like it's just amazing. Dreamer's Ball, which is like a New Orleans kind of like jazz time, ragtime jazz kind of a feel. which, by the way, Roger Taylor and Brian May apparently got into a fight over that track because Roger Taylor didn't want to record it, and Brian May did, and they almost got into a fist fight over it in the studio. But they ended up recording it. You know, Don't Stop Me Now, okay, as a third single, only reached number 86 in the North American charts, okay, which is unreal.
Yeah,
Leaving Home Ain't Easy, okay, with Brian May doing the female vocal in the middle section. I guess it's called the middle eight of the track. You know, I mean, just an amazing track and more of that jazz with the heavy drums and the heavy rhythm guitar. And then you get the little snippets of the other tracks in the midsection, and then it comes out, goes back into the original track, and then it just stops dead after two bass drum hits. Boom, and it's just, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Some people say it is a weaker album. The band says it's a weaker album. John Deacon actually says it's a terrible album. He doesn't like it. But it is Queen, and it is majestic. It is melodic. It is over the top. It is Queen overall, and that is my number one.
that
So
is an excellent pick. Hey, we switched it around.
yeah, yeah.
This time,
Third,
my number two was your number one
there you
instead of,
go.
yeah.
There you go. Well, we won't go there, but anyways, okay. So your first honorable mention.
My first, with the crappy price tag still on it. It's stuck on there so bad I don't want to shred the album cover completely, but it was a cutout bin anyway. I really wanted to get these guys on with their first two albums that came out in 75 and 76,
Yeah.
which both heavily involved Mr. Alan Parsons, who has been previously mentioned. The band is Ambrosia, and this is their third album, Life Beyond LA.
Really?
They,
Okay.
oh yeah, this is they had their first big hit. I mean, they had Holding On to Yesterday, I think, was a minor hit from the debut.
Hmm.
But really, those first two albums were more art rock, progressive rock. This moves, it still has lots of elements of that, but it moves into more pop and say R&B ish territory. But How Much I Feel is the big hit on this, and it's a great. It's one of those people would call it a yacht rock song or whatever, but it's a powerful emotional ballad
Yeah.
about essentially about someone who's admitting he still thinks about his old lover even when he's making love to his current. So yeah, that's pretty.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. It said the line in there. Sometimes we make love. I still see your face. Ouch. Yeah, I believe that the song went to number 3 on the charts in the states. Don't
Okay.
quote me on that, but yeah, it's
Okay. All due respect, just a quick sec. That's like somebody, that's like telling a guy, it's like a guy telling his girlfriend, when I go see the strippers, I just see your face up there on stage. Guys, for the record, never do that. Never do that.
no.
That's a hit and a half for your ass. Okay. Like, I mean, seriously. Okay. Go on. Sorry.
It did make a great song though.
Okay.
It was a well-deserved hit. The title track's first song, Life Beyond LA, and that really continues a lot with their more art rock roots. It's pretty cool. It's kind of all over the place, has lots of neat keyboards in it, and it kind of rocks hard too.
Hmm.
There's another coulda, shoulda, woulda been ballad called Heart to Heart, which is more of a Joe Puerta song. David Pack is the one that typically wrote and sang the hits, the ballads.
Hmm.
But Joe Puerta's voice was just as good. And he's a great songwriter too. And he's still with the band, unlike David. The other three guys are still there doing their thing, going out
Yeah.
and performing, though they haven't put out an album since '82. Uh, but yeah, this is, yeah, I've always loved this band. They only have 5 albums in their catalog, but they're all worth checking out.
Perfect. 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 That's great. My first honorable mention is Boston with Don't Look Back. Um, their, second release, released in 78. I, mentioned this album in another list, ranking list albums that I did a few days ago. Um, how do you follow up an album that sold 17 million copies? Or how do you try to? You don't. You just do what you do and you go on. Epic were on their asses in order to get another album out because they wanted to capitalize on the success of the debut. This album clocks in at 34 minutes, again produced by Tom Schultz. Tom Schultz, and I'm not talking out of turn by saying this, he is a perfectionist. He will manipulate every note until it sounds perfect to his ear. And if he doesn't like it, he won't release it. But he was under pressure to release this album. Good album. Title track is a good track. The Journey, which is the instrumental of the album, is another good track, 1 minute 44 seconds. Other releases from the album were A Man I'll Never Be, which is all right, 6 minutes 34 seconds ballad. Feeling Satisfied, which is another uh, single from the album, selling 7 million copies. Now, that's not a failure by any stretch of the imagination. Okay. Does this album sell or sound as good as the debut, at least the first side of the debut? No, I'm sorry to say it doesn't. I think he was trying to duplicate the sound palette that he had going for himself on the debut. Maybe he could have let Brad Delp and the other musicians pitch in. Was Barry Boudreau?
Very
Was he
good
in the,
road.
yeah, as on guitar? Maybe if he allowed Barry Boudreau in order to, to come in and do some work, maybe it could have been different. It could have been more of a band effort instead of one person doing everything and fretting over every little note. You know what I mean? But that's my humble opinion. So that's my first honorable mention.
Nice. The rumor has it that there's going to be a race to see who can complete an album next between Tom Schultz and Axl Rose. Sadly, none of us will live to see who wins, but
No, no. Um, if if Tom Schultz would stop firing everybody and just work with them, I mean,
ah, oh, Tom, yeah, yeah. It's still good stuff, but yeah, Tom's an easy target.
mhm, mhm.
um my I do not have a prop for this one either. I can't find it. I own it in multiple formats, but I can't find a single one of them. I'm breaking my rule here. I meant to do strictly studio albums, but the reason I'm making an exception for this one is because it's a debut album. It's not a live album rehashing a band's previous material.
This is your idea for for this series. You can break the rules. Go ahead.
All right. Well, some people might think this is a joke, but I absolutely love this album. It has a stellar cast of world class musicians and great material, and it's led by two men in pork pie hats and sunglasses. This is the Blues Brothers' Briefcase Full of Blues. This
Okay.
thing is a banger from start to finish. I love this album. I mean, the band is ridiculous. When they covered Soul Man, they didn't mess around. They literally have Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn in the band. And when he says, "Play it, Steve," he's really talking to Steve Cropper, who played on the Sam and Dave original of Soul Man.
Hmm.
But Soul Man's not even one of my favorites on here. I liked Rubber Biscuit when I was a kid, but that's not really one of my favorites either. It's all the deeper tracks, these cool songs that they came up with. And I think John Belushi, people talk a lot of crap about him as a singer, but I think he was perfect for this material because whatever vocal limitations he had, I didn't really notice because he authentically loved this music. This was not a joke to him, even though they did play up some humorous aspects as the Blues Brothers.
Hmm.
But these guys were serious about this. They really tried to push these artists, the original artists, and get them attention. I'm sure they got those original artists plenty of royalties.
Hmm.
But yeah, you got other players like, um, uh, excuse me, Blue Marini, Paul Schaefer. I mean, I believe Steve Jordan on drums. I mean, this is ridiculous. This
What's
is an all
yeah.
star. Uh, but there were songs like B Movie Boxcar Blues and Shotgun Blues. Gonna take a
Mhm.
shotgun, people, and disconnect my brain. And just, yeah, his
Oh
vocal on that,
God. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty intense.
Hmm.
And oh God, yeah, I wish I had my copy here because again, I'm having a brain freeze on the song title.
We're all entitled to brain farts. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of them they did an awesome version of King Floyd's "Groove Me," and they went into this whole. I don't know. It might be considered very non-PC now. It wasn't so much back then, but they
Hmm.
did this whole Jamaican accent and talked about bringing back lamb's bread from Jamaica and
Okay.
the whole routine that went with the song. But oh, I don't know is the song I'm thinking of,
Okay. Yep.
where talks about lyrics. When I said I gave up cigarettes, I didn't mean I gave up smoking. And yeah, lines like they're just such fun, cool lines in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a fun album by guys that I think are just thrilled to be there playing and singing with this all-star legendary band of musicians on these great songs. I don't think they ever topped it. They hit it
Um,
out of the park with this. And if I remember right, this was recorded while they were opening for Steve Martin on his comedy tour.
okay. Good. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Good choice. My last honorable mention for favorite albums of 1978 is from Dire Straits with their debut. Now, Bill and I had talked about, I'll make this really quick because this is an honorable mention. Bill and I talked about a few days ago about albums where you have one song that makes the album, right? This is one of those albums, okay? Uh, again, released in 1978, featuring the classic Sultans of Swing. Um, Mark Knopfler and the boys. To me, this album was the complete antithesis of what was going on in terms of rock music in the 1970s. Mark Knopfler, had a disdain, a disgust for bands like Boston, like Queen, like all these bands who relied on heavy use of textured guitar passages, harmony guitars, overlapping guitars, wall of sounds. His style of playing, I call it finger picking. It was a finger picking type of play, very minimalistic, very subtle, but effective nonetheless. Okay. Unfortunately, this is the only song in the album that makes it for me. So that's why I'm sorry. Like but when you hear them, I saw Dire Straits live in 1992 at the Maple Leaf Gardens, which is no longer in existence in Toronto. And I saw them when they did this live, this one track, Sultans of Swing, it was like 15 bloody minutes because there was a lot of improv, a lot of instrumental breaks, and just free form. This song makes this album for me, so that's why it's an honorable mention.
Fair enough. I can't really argue with that assessment. Uh, yeah, I, I I still like Sultans of Swing a lot, but yeah, the album as a whole, it's okay, but it's never really tripped my trigger. I'm I'm more if I had to pick a Dire Straits album, I'd be more likely to go for Making Movies as a whole album.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, Sultans as a track though definitely still stands up. It's timeless.
Yep. Yeah. No. There you go. I mean, yeah. It is a good track. It is a classic track. So there you go, guys. Our top five albums from 1978. Top five plus two honorable mentions each. For people out there watching, please down there in the comments below, put your top five, top 10, top three albums, plus an honorable mention, one or two. And again, we'd like to get a dialogue going here. So for Mr. Bill Schuster, I am Armando Venditti, bidding you a good night. We will see you soon with top five albums of the 70s. 1979. It's getting harder as we go along with these lists, guys. So we will be back very soon with that list and that episode. Bye for now.